Good morning, guys, and welcome back to my channel. So a topic that I've been thinking about talking about for a while now is the pros and cons of buying niche perfumes versus designer perfumes. So as somebody who has a huge passion for perfume and has started reviewing them on YouTube, one comment that I get a lot is that people are not interested in niche perfumes. And I totally understand this because that used to be me. I never used to have any interest at all in niche perfumes. So today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of going niche. So if this is your first time on my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Alithia, and on this channel we talk mostly about perfume, so if that is your thing, feel free to head on down and hit the subscribe button. And without further ado, let's get started. Pro number one, greater variety. So there are literally thousands of niche perfumes to choose from, whereas in the designer fragrance world, sometimes it can feel like there aren't that many available. Perfumes get discontinued every now and again, or you feel like you've smelt them all. This has certainly happened to me quite a few times, and as somebody who buys and reviews fragrances for YouTube, I sometimes feel like I've hit that wall, like I've smelt every designer one that there is, and it's just time to discover something new. And if I never went into the niche market, I would continually be talking about all the different flankers of Alien and Black Opium and Givenchy, and I would never have anything kind of new and interesting to bring to the table, and also just to my own personal collection. So that's probably the best pro that I can think about in terms of buying niche is the variety. Pro number two, niche perfumes broaden your horizons, your olfactory horizons. You can sniff scents that you've never sniffed before, and you can discover note profiles that you simply will never find in designer fragrances. They push the limits, and sometimes almost in an unappealing way, but sometimes you find a gem that is so unique and so incredible that you would never find it from Dior or Marc Jacobs. This is the beauty of niche fragrances. They just kind of have that ability and that freedom to do what they like because that's all they focus on is perfume. And so for them, it's more of an art versus something that they're trying to create to sell to the mass. Sampling niche fragrances gives you a peek into the perfume world outside of the box, the type of perfumes that you didn't even know existed. And I have had this happen to myself as well. I remember when I first started getting into niche perfumes, I wasn't ready for it. There was quite a few that just were so out there, and I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? This doesn't even smell like a perfume. And a lot of them are certainly not very mainstream, and sometimes they're not very good. Like sometimes there's some that just are not that good, but sometimes you find a gem that is so much better than any other designer you've ever found. Pro number three, the ability to be and smell original. So by buying and wearing niche fragrances, you can almost bet that you won't run into anyone around you who has the same fragrance or who smells exactly like you. This depends, of course, as there are some niche companies that are very popular like Parfum de Marly, Maison Francis Kurkdjian, Bond Number 9, Byredo. So there are a lot of very, very popular niche companies, and there are other ones that are sort of slowly making their way up in the popularity scale. But if you branch out, you can find something that is truly unique. And if you don't want to smell exactly like everyone else and have someone point their finger at you and say, oh, you're wearing Flower Bomb, that's my favorite perfume, then you might want to check out niche. So that is another major pro that I think that comes with discovering niche is the ability to find perfumes that nobody else has. Pro number four, better quality. This is not always the case, however, so I will throw in that caveat, but usually you will find better quality than if you buy a less expensive designer or celebrity perfume. In the niche world, you will often find monster fragrances that have a high concentration of very high quality oils that last a very long time. Often the packaging has also stepped up its game and the customer service is top notch. And this is because this is what these companies do. They focus on everything surrounding their fragrance, and that is their jam, so to speak. So you'll find elaborate boxes that are pretty enough to be used as home decor, more unique bottles, intricate designs, and usually when you pay $200 plus for a scent, the lasting power and the quality of the oils inside are mind-blowing. Like I said, there are some exceptions to this. I've definitely found some niche perfumes, and of course there are a lot of really famous niche brands that don't have the best lasting power like some of the Byredos, so it's not always the case. But in general, the trend that I have noticed is that most of the niche fragrances I have invested in have been above and beyond in terms of quality, and you truly do get what you pay for. And pro number 5 is supporting smaller companies. So this one most people might not really care about, and this is probably my last thing that I think about when I'm buying a perfume. Obviously, I want to get perfumes that I like and that I just enjoy wearing. Supporting smaller companies is definitely another perk. So obviously, depending on the company and how long they've been around, they likely don't have the same exposure that Valentino and Prada do. And it can be nice to put your money toward a smaller company whose only dream is to create a beautiful perfume for someone else. It can be a little bit disappointing when you spend $125 on a Gucci perfume that doesn't last, and let's be honest, Gucci doesn't really need my money. For the same price, you can find a beautiful niche scent that lasts forever, and at the same time, you're supporting a much smaller company with your purchase. Okay, so those pros out of the way, let's now move on to the cons. And trust me, there are just as many cons as there are pros, and I think they're kind of equally balanced. So at the end of the day, it totally depends on what's important to you. So let's start out with con number 1. Usually they are more expensive. This isn't always the case. There are plenty of niche fragrance companies that sell affordable fragrances that are long lasting, but for the most part, the ones that you find on your wish list, those are going to be numbering in the $200 plus range. Some of the best I found in terms of quality, scent profile, and lasting power are definitely up there in price. Con number 2, they are harder to find. Usually you have to order online, and sometimes they can't ship it to your location at all. This has happened to me hundreds of times. I actually ordered a very popular or starting to become popular niche perfume. It came all the way from Jamaica, which is a really far away from me. I don't know why it came from there because I don't even think they make it there. But in any case, by the time the box made it to my house, the box was completely water damaged and the perfume inside and everything was completely soaked. So it totally took away from the fact that it was an elaborate niche fragrance. Because many of these niche fragrances don't have local stores unless you live in a large center, it can be really difficult to sniff out some of these perfumes. And don't expect to find them at TJ Maxx or your local drugstore because you will not find them there. The odd time you will find a more well-known niche brand like Bond Number 9, but some of those smaller or like indie companies you're not going to find at any of your local stores, so it's always a gamble. Often you will have to purchase the perfume from a distant retailer or an entirely different country, and the shipping times and costs can be enough to completely make you throw in the towel and decide to just go with designer. Con number 3, it can be overwhelming in selection and where to begin. This was what I found to be the biggest hurdle when I decided to look into niche perfumes. It's just like an endless sea of perfume. You don't even know where to start. And that's where, thank God, we have perfume reviewers who bring to our attention some of these good perfumes, because otherwise you literally just wouldn't even know where to start. So especially if you're like me and you live in a smaller community, you probably have to go through a rather tedious selection process of finding a reputable sample store, reading notes and reviews, watching YouTube videos, which you hope are comprehensive and recommending great perfumes. Then you have to take a gamble at what you might actually like to sample, which can already be expensive and time consuming. Then, if you find one you like, which isn't very often by the way, you then have to hunt down a full bottle online, which can sometimes be even harder than finding the samples. The entire process can be very frustrating and expensive and can leave you feeling very exhausted and disappointed. And that is not what perfume is meant to do to us. And con number 5, and I think this is a huge one, and I'll talk more about it in depth in a minute, is that they are not always mass-pleasing and their concoctions can sometimes be unique to a fault. The great thing about choosing designer fragrances is that designer fragrances are designed to please many people. Their scent profiles are usually quite safe and they smell good in general because they rely on the noses and the creators of the companies, the bigger companies like Dior and Valentino, who are specifically making perfumes that they think will sell and that many people will like. Whereas niche perfumes really push the envelope and they push the boundaries and they do a little bit more experimenting. And sometimes they come up with crazy smelling perfumes that are more artistic than actually mass pleasing. So for example, City on Fire from Imaginary Authors, which I have purchased a sample of, quite literally smells like a building that has gone up in flames. Personally, I find it absolutely repulsive. It actually gives me a little bit of PTSD thinking about times I have driven past a house fire. I don't understand why somebody would want to wear that perfume, but some people really appreciate it. And to some people, it's amazing and it's a work of art and they want to collect it. And that's totally their prerogative. So this might be someone's cup of tea, but personally, that is not my cup of tea. Niche perfumes experiment more, and they often come up with very unusual scents. And this is the trade you make if you want originality. So that's not to say that all of them are crazy smelling, but you definitely are taking more of a gamble on ending up with an extreme note concentration or profile than if you were just to go with the designer fragrances. And this is especially the case if you're blind buying. So all of those things taken together, you can imagine that buying samples, doing all the research, and then still spending hundreds of dollars sometimes on only getting samples can be very frustrating and overwhelming. And it's very easy to see why a lot of people just don't even want to go the niche route. I totally understand because, like I say, I've been there myself. Personally, my own collection, I think I have about 80% designer and about 20% niche. It could be a little bit off, but I do find that I am enjoying niche more and more, but it has taken me over a year of blind buying and getting samples and watching YouTube videos and doing reviews in order to discover what I truly like. And thankfully, I'm getting a little bit better at being able to tell what is going to work for me and what's not going to, because I do still do a large amount of blind buying just because I have a YouTube channel and because I like reviewing fragrances for you guys. And also because I really enjoy blind buying. So lucky for me, it's not that bad. I just try not to blind buy perfumes that are extremely expensive because that is a huge gamble. And I've definitely had my share of very expensive failed blind purchases. Something I've been thinking about is that I actually do really like designer scents in general. Designer scents are mass pleasing, and everyone seems to like them, and overall they're pretty safe. You can bet that if you go into your local store and you buy the latest Dior or the latest Valentino, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna like it. Whereas if you go into a niche store and you blind buy the latest one from XYZ house, there's a pretty good chance you're not gonna like it at all. So definitely there are some pros to the designer world as well. So those are my thoughts on the pros and the cons of buying niche fragrances. Let me know down below, you guys, if there's anything I missed. Do you think that there is a benefit to buying niche or designer? And is there anything that I should have mentioned in today's video? I hope that you guys enjoyed listening, and I will see you very soon in my next one. Bye for now.